Throughout the 1930s and early 1940s, the Japanese Empire launched a series of military campaigns into Asia and the Pacific. Japan was initially successful as they had pushed into northern China, the Philippines, Indonesia, and many Pacific islands. Japan had used speed in order to quickly capture territory, but as the war progressed, the industrial and military might of the United States, Japan's strongest enemy, was increasing, meaning the U.S. could more easily counter Japan's tactics. Japan suffered some great military losses as the war went on, such as at the Battle of Midway and the Battle of Leyte Gulf. And by the summer of 1945, Japan had lost a lot of their Pacific holdings. The Japanese had also lost much of their air and naval strength. 2 devastating atomic bombs were dropped on August 6th and 9th, and the Soviet Union declared war on Japan on August 8th. On August 9th, the same day as the bombing of Nagasaki, the Supreme War Direction Council was meeting in Tokyo to discuss whether to surrender or to continue fighting. If Japan was to surrender, they would accept the Potsdam Declaration. This outlined the terms for Japanese surrender. Some of the points within the Potsdam Declaration said for Japan to disarm their military, Japan would only have authority over the home islands and other smaller islands the Allies would determine, and Japan would adopt democratic ideas. General Anami, a member of the council, was the army minister and the most powerful man in Japan besides the emperor. Initially, he wanted to keep fighting, arguing that the casualties inflicted on the Allies during their amphibious assault would somehow make Japan able to evade surrender and possibly even keep some of what they had conquered. The council argued to a deadlock, and then Prime Minister Suzuki asked Hirohito, the emperor, to make a final decision on whether to surrender or to keep fighting. Hirohito wanted to end the suffering and bear the unbearable, so he decided to surrender. On August 11th, Hirohito declared that he would accept the terms of the Potsdam Declaration and unconditionally surrender to the Allies. Hirohito pre-recorded the imperial rescript of surrender inside the Imperial Palace, which would announce Japan's surrender to the Allies. The speech would be broadcasted at noon on August 15th. The recording was known as the Jewel Voice Recording, and it would be locked in a safe at the Grand Chamberlain's office. Despite the destruction of major cities and military setbacks, many nationalists wanted to fight on, as they believed the most humiliating thing to do was to surrender. One such nationalist, 33-year-old Major Kenji Hatanaka, heard that Hirohito would announce Japan's surrender, and he did not want that. Hatanaka had thought the emperor had been influenced by some of the defeatist council members. If Japan surrendered, the imperial system would be abolished. By not surrendering, the imperial system could survive, which Hatanaka wanted for the emperor. On August 12th, Hatanaka organized a group of officers and planned a coup intended to create a new government headed by the army minister and continue the war, a coup known as the Kyūjō Incident. If Hatanaka wanted to succeed, he would need the support of the army, so he asked Army Minister Anami for support to prevent the surrender broadcast. Although Anami initially wanted to fight on, he did not resist the emperor's decision because it was his duty, as well as everyone else's, to obey the emperor. Anami refused to help Hatanaka. Although he did not have the army on his side, Hatanaka did not give up. Hatanaka and his co-conspirators were not alone, however, as he had convinced the commander of the 2nd Regiment within the Imperial Guards Division to support their coup by untruthfully telling him that Anami and other experienced commanders were all in on the plan to prevent the surrender broadcast. At 1 a.m. on August 15th, just 11 hours before the recording would be broadcasted, the conspirators surrounded the emperor's palace. Hatanaka entered the office of General Mori, leader of the Imperial Guard. At the time, Mori was in a meeting with his brother-in-law. Hatanaka interrupted the meeting and explained his objective, which were to destroy the surrender recording and to keep Japan in the war. He asked Mori for the Imperial Guard's help in order for him to save Japan. Mori told Hatanaka that his plan was foolish and that the Imperial Guard would not unite with the conspirators. Upon hearing Mori's answer, a furious Hatanaka shot him with his 8mm pistol, killing him instantly. He was scared that if he did not kill Mori, he would command the Imperial Guard to terminate the coup. Now in control of the Imperial Guard, Hatanaka and his men decided that he and his men would take over the Emperor's palace at 2 a.m. The time before then would be used to get army commanders on their side. At 2 a.m., using Mori's ID stamp, Hatanaka ordered Strategic Order Number 584, a made-up order that commanded the Imperial Guard to occupy the Emperor's palace, where the recording was hidden. As a first step, Hatanaka ordered the Imperial Guard to sever the phone lines and barricade the entrances of the palace. After that, they searched for the dual voice recording. The search was made difficult because Allied bombings had caused a blackout. As the rebels frantically searched for the surrender recording, they found the Chamberlain, who was the manager of the Emperor's palace. Hatanaka demanded that the Chamberlain, Yoshihiro Tokugawa, reveal where the recording was hidden. If he did not reveal the location, Hatanaka threatened to kill him. Tokugawa lied to the conspirators, telling them that he did not know where the recording was hidden. Tokugawa was then beaten. The rebels searched the room of imperial treasures for the recording because the word of the emperor was so sacred that it had to be there. It was not. Unknown to the rebels, Tokugawa had hidden the recording among the servants' bedsheets. While Hatanaka searched the palace for the surrender recording, he sent a group of his men to the Prime Minister's office in Yokohama to kill him. Prime Minister Suzuki was not in his office at the time, but the rebels burned the office. Then they checked his house, but Suzuki was nowhere to be found. The rebels also set fire to his house. The Prime Minister had been warned and he had escaped. He was now under police protection. At 5 a.m., after failing to find the surrender recording at the Imperial Palace, Hatanaka went to a radio broadcast tower run by NHK. NHK was the main broadcast tower of Japan and could be used to contact the USA. In that way, he could tell the Japanese people and the American people that Japan would continue to fight on. If top generals, especially Anami, heard Hatanaka's plan and were convinced of its success, then the coup might succeed. He could get Anami to prepare defenses for the upcoming Allied invasion. Untold to Hatanaka, General Anami had killed himself in the ritual suicide known as seppuku. At the NHK tower, Hatanaka demanded airtime and threatened to kill the workers if they refused. The workers at the broadcast tower were very brave, as one of them snuck downstairs to deactivate the tower. The worker with a gun pointed at him told Hatanaka that he could not give him airtime because he did not have permission to do so. Hatanaka was beginning to lose faith in his plan. He begged the workers for airtime, but they did not let him. At around 5:30 a.m., General Tanaka, in charge of the Eastern Army District, called Hatanaka at the radio tower. Desperate, Hatanaka tried to get Tanaka on his side, but he refused. General Tanaka was coming to put an end to Hatanaka's conspiracy. As a last attempt, Hatanaka and one of his co-conspirators rode through Tokyo, dispersing leaflets explaining their motives and actions to try to get people on their side. A little while later, Tanaka and his men arrived at the Imperial Palace to put an end to the coup. He scolded the conspirators for their actions and ordered them to return to their barracks. By 8 a.m., the rebellion had completely fallen apart. Finally, at 11 a.m., realizing all hope was lost to destroy the surrender recording, Hatanaka killed himself. The short answer is, the war would continue. Perhaps General Anami or other top generals would want to continue the war and support the coup. The generals would build defenses along the coast of Japan where an Allied invasion was likely. If the coup succeeded, Japan as we know it would not exist. There would be huge amounts of destruction. More atomic bombs could have been dropped, destroying even the largest cities. Hundreds of thousands of civilians would die. If the Allies carried out Operation Downfall, the invasion of Japan, thousands of soldiers on both sides would die. Kamikaze pilots could crash into landing craft, killing hundreds of soldiers. They could also use other forms of suicide attacks, such as ramming motorboats into ships packed with explosives. Within a short period of time, Japan would be kicked out of northern China by the Soviet forces. Japan would mobilize millions of civilians to resist the Allies, but they would be ill-equipped and ill-trained. They had a few million professional soldiers left, but because of damaged factories and low amount of natural resources, proper equipment could not be made quick enough to supply the new soldiers, meaning only about 1 million soldiers would be equipped properly. Also, what was left of their navy could not be used effectively because of a lack of oil. So, if the Kyūjō Incident had succeeded and Japan stayed in the war, Japan would be devastated and millions of soldiers and civilians would have died.